It's said in Jujutsu Kaisen that curses are created when cursed energy leaks from humans as a result of their harboring of negative emotions. So it's the job for those who can see and fight them to exorcise them. Jujutsu Kaisen has a few central themes, but the one I found myself the most personally invested in was assimilation. Assimilation is strictly defined as the absorption and integration of people, ideas, or culture into a wider society or culture. And when I watched JJK, the character who seemed to most strongly embody this idea was naturally Suguru Geto. But I think before we discuss him, there are two other notable cases I feel would help set the stage. Yuji, despite being a well-meaning, kind-hearted, and idealistic youth, was completely shattered by traumatic and life-threatening situations one after another, and consistently found himself making promises other people would make him break.
お前は大勢に囲まれて死ね。
正しいしかじゃねえよ。
なんつうか、一度人を殺したら大切な人の価値までわからなくなるのが。
殺してきたか。もう俺は負けない。認めるよ、真人。俺はお前だ。俺はお前を否定したかった。きっと俺は大きな何かの歯車の一つに過ぎないんだと思う。それがこの戦いの俺の役割なんだ。
However, I completely disagree with Yuji, and I think Gege does too. There are 3 instances that make me doubt this, but since the manga is ongoing, I think it's worth saying I could be proven wrong when the story ends. The first instance is Hikari, the suspended third-year student who finds himself fighting Yuji after Yuji attempts to trick him into a meeting to ask for help in the Cullen Games. Hikari explains that the reason he's running a gambling ring is because idiots get fooled because of their own passion. Passion like, I'm going to change my life, and because of this people make rash decisions, but also that without passion, people can't even fall in love. He goes on to say that a more direct exchange of passion is gambling, that life is a gamble, gambling is passion, and passion is life. By taking Hikari's assault without dodging or fighting back, and by just enduring the beating over and over to get Hikari to listen to him, Yuji explains that he's a cog, and that cogs have roles. His role is to exercise curses, and if Hikari is needed to do that, he'll follow him until he gives Yuji a yes. Hikari is shocked and internally monologues that this guy, does the eye of a cog really burn with fever? Kirara, Hikari's boyfriend, then points out to Hikari that he's getting heated, to which Hikari internally responds that he can't lie to his fever, before agreeing to make a deal. Kirara smiles and monologues to himself that dear Hikari only ever got this passionate when helping others at high school. The second instance is Sukuna, the king of curses who finds himself trying to not only kill Yuji, but crush his ideals during the recent chapters of the manga. Sukuna has found himself in numerous clashes of strength, but never fully fought most people on their worldviews or dreams. Instead, reasoning his own strength creates and serves an insatiable bloodlust and hunger that he truly does what he wants and wants whatever he feels like, and that by virtue of continuing to survive and crush all before him, he is then proven correct. After Higuruma's death, Sukuna finds himself thinking that he was disappointed, and reassures himself that other people merely exist for Sukuna to pass time until his death. He realizes if there's now disappointment in his opponents, despite all those opponents never changing over the past 1,000 years, that he is the one who changed. He blames Yuji for this, saying that he possesses an indomitable ideal. The idea that a weakling far, far below Sukuna can rival him with nothing but strength of will and maintained ideals, that is something deeply unpleasant to him. He says that just this once, he'll take Yuji's ideals and mince them to bits. While this is heavily reliant on prediction, I want to briefly mention Yuta's recent development in Chapter 261. We found out that Yuta took over Gojo's body using Kenjaku's curse technique, to which even Sukuna was shocked to see. While discussing the plan with the group, everyone but Gojo and Shoko seem to object to some degree, going as far as Kusakabe saying it's inhumane. Yuta snaps and responds, "What about Gojo? Is he not important? We've always pushed the burden of being a monster onto him alone. If no one else wants to step up, then I will." With the chapter ending with a domain clash between him and Sukuna. While not over yet, I heavily think Yuta will lose to emphasize that the idea of being a monster and giving in to being a monster is not the way to beat Sukuna. Hikari doubting that a cog could have the fever Yuji does, Sukuna saying that Yuji's ideals changed him, and Yuta choosing to become a monster and losing due to embracing a pre-established role. I think these are the reasons Yuji's individuality and kind heart will shine in the final battle against Sukuna, and break this self-deprecating title of a cog. To summarize, Yuji's current mentality stems from a response to the world that exists around him, instead of a desire to fundamentally reshape the world that created his response. And if Yuta loses by embracing his role as a monster, Yuji will win by refusing to give in to the world and its expectations. Unlike Yuji, Maki was more fundamentally cynical, and ended up caring about those around her more due to those very people's influence than from an inherent desire to save and care for them that Yuji has. The first season of the anime revealed that Maki and Mai were abused and humiliated for being born twins and as failures. While we don't know why they each ended up different like this despite enduring the same treatment, Maki's heavenly restriction is likely the cause, as it gives her the potential for growth unlike Mai's limited curse technique. In Jujutsu Kaisen 0, we learn Maki tells Yuta her goal. We don't learn more until the Perfect Preparation arc, where Maki and Mai are almost murdered by their father and left for dead, when Mai sacrifices herself to allow Maki to reach her full potential. Her father tells them that children must not hold back their parents before calling them a stain on his life and leaving them to die. Inside of Maki's half-unconscious delirious state, Mai tells her that by creating a sword for her she will die, and asks Maki to destroy everything, showing that even if Mai would have assimilated into the clan's ways, even as a failure, she would have viewed it from the perspective of having assimilated. Or, to simplify a bit, she only would have chosen to give up her dignity and humanity to become a part of the clan, knowing those were a trade-off for assimilating. When Maki awakens, she kills her father, all of the clan's warriors, and the new clan head Naoya, truly destroying everything the clan was and stood for. Continuing to live on and help her friends to fight in the Culling Games, and even fighting Sukuna on multiple occasions, Maki serves to illustrate a blatant rejection to assimilate, but just like Yuji, doesn't really do much to reshape the world that created her situation. Instead, simply killing the cancer that had formed in its body in the shape of the Zen'in clan. While she and Yuji have been busy with Kenjaku and Sukuna, this is why they can only illustrate a part of Jujutsu Kaisen's theme of assimilation. Geto swings more in the direction of Maki than Yuji, having been born blessed with curse spirit manipulation and the aptitude to use it, allowing for him to be called the strongest alongside Satoru Gojo, when Gojo's mere birth shifted the power of cursed spirits and the balance of Jujutsu society. However, Geto is aware of his strength in comparison to others, and a detail people overlook when discussing Geto's shift is that when he describes protecting non-sorcerers, he distinctly labels them the weak, and talks about them in the lesser sense, which shows that even if he was doing the right thing initially in protecting normal humans, it came entirely from an egotistical viewpoint of superiority, very similar to modern-day Gojo. Through his experiences with Rika and the revelation that he and Gojo were willing to disregard orders to protect her, we learn more to support that Geto's ideas of right and wrong come less from social standards, in this case Jujutsu society, and more so his own ideas of right and wrong. The detail that Geto kills his parents is viewed by some to be an extreme reaction, but when talking to Rollie, he hears the care and love for Rika she has and makes the following statement. This shows that his view of family is very far removed from black and white ideas of family that the Zen'in or Death Womb paintings have, and leans more to the idea of family that is chosen rather than assigned. When Rika is killed, the significance to Geto is much less the failure of his or Jujutsu Hai's mission, but in the revelation her murderer and the people who hired him are all non-sorcerer humans.
親に恵まれたな。だが、呪術も使えねえ俺みたいな猿に負けたってこと。
We then see Gojo leave Geto behind in strength, with Geto's unhealthy appearance noted by Gojo. We see through his daily life that he's traumatized from hidden inventory and see him slipping when Yuki appears, and they talk about eliminating curses.
呪霊を狩るんじゃなくて、呪霊の生まれない世界を作ろうよってこと。術師からは呪霊は生まれないんだよ。もちろん、術師本人が死後呪いに転ずるのを除いてね。
じゃあ、非術師を皆殺しにすればいいじゃないですか。
というか多分、それが一番イージーだ。非術師は嫌いかい？ゲト君。
弱者ゆえの尊さ、弱者ゆえの醜さ、その分別と受容ができなくなってしまっている。
非術師を見下す君、それを否定する君、どちらを本音にするのかは君がこれから選択するんだよ。
The impression left behind with the encounter of Yuki is that Geto can, after all, decide right and wrong his own feelings for himself, and he only has until Hybera is killed to think on it. Seeing the death of his friends, or maybe, based on the interaction with Kuroi, his family, dying to protect the normal humans, he cracks. After this, he's sent out to investigate a village and sees the exact same thing again. 2 innocent girls who are scared and hurt being held prisoner by villagers who are scared of their supernatural power. And after he finally decides for himself what the right thing to do is, he murders everyone in the village, rescuing the 2 girls and even goes on to kill his parents. After this, Gojo confronts Geto where the two argue over it.
意味ない殺しはしねえんじゃなかったのか。
君にならできるだろう、サトル。自分にできることを人にはできやしないと言い聞かせるのか。君は五条悟だから最強なのか、最強だから五条悟なのか。もし私が君になれるのなら、この馬鹿げた理想も地に足がつくと思わないか。殺したければ殺せ。それには意味がある。
The question being asked is more directly, does your strength dictate what you do in life, or do you dictate what you live for with your strength? Geto, like I mentioned earlier, was Geto because with Gojo he was the strongest, an answer that left him empty after the events with Rika, and that also has left Gojo empty until he finally decided to kill the higher-ups. Geto now is Geto because he is Geto. He has chosen his path and will follow it because it's the right thing to do to him. When he tells Gojo killing him would have meaning, Gojo backs off because he is weak in resolve that Geto has now. Along with taking in Nanako and Mimiko and the rest of his family, he declares his disgust for normal humans.
猿は嫌い。私に従え。それが私の選んだ本音。猿ども。
While I do believe Geto made the wrong choice, the suffering he endures and the conviction gained make it hard not to feel a little proud of him for gaining direction and resolve in attempting to reject the world as it is and for trying to change it. But if Geto made the wrong call, did anyone make the right one? While I do personally loathe Gojo because he gets on my nerves on every single level, he too changed with hidden inventory, shifting from the mindset that Geto now has to the one he had before, of using his preordained strength to protect the weak, even if Gojo is still wrong in viewing normal humans as lesser. After the events of hidden inventory, a detail that is very good is that Gojo's infinity is now permanent, meaning no one can truly get close to him, even if it's his own fault. This could be a metaphor for the gap that now exists between him and Geto, and the fact that the way he was able to befriend Geto is now impossible again, reinforced by the way he talks about his students, starting by recruiting Megami, then Yuta, and now Yuji, like he said in chapter 236. You can admire a blooming flower, but you can't force it to understand you. While Gojo is very unlikable to me because he arbitrarily dictates the gap between him and the people that could be his family, if he were willing, he chose the correct option that Geto couldn't, raising and teaching the next generation so they could reject the ways the world is and change it. So what does Jujutsu Kaisen say about assimilation? Not surprisingly, it seems to hate it very heavily. From Yuji dismissing his individuality after suffering due to the way things are, to Maki's abuse and humiliation from not having talent due to the way things are, and Geto and Gojo trying to change the interactions between sorcerers and non-sorcerers because things are the way things are, it very heavily resents assimilation. The way things are, to paraphrase Sukuna, is how losers think. Assimilating exists in lots of ways, from devaluing your life based on the money it costs to pay for needs like food, water, and shelter, to choosing to become attractive so others don't physically cringe when they see you, and even extreme cases like taking the objectification and dehumanization of passing that was forced on you and forcing it on other trans people. Whether or not we assimilate to those things that are the way they are is everyone's choice to make, and viewing the faults and problems of the world as unmovable variables is ultimately the foundation for such evil to build on. It's said in Jujutsu Kaisen that curses are born as a result of humans harboring negative emotions, and the true curses of the world are built on fear. Fear that things will remain as they are.